In your headlines, the Director of Public Prosecution has confirmed that a man will stand in trial for murder. Honorable Otis Morris comments on the murder of 60-year-old woman in Grand Turks, and the People's Democratic Movement share their concern for the way in which the TCI is being governed. From the PTV Broadcasting Headquarters in Providenciales, your number one source for news, I'm Erica Pinales, delivering the latest from across the country this Thursday, January 6th, right to your door. Newswatch starts now. TCI Hospital is grappling with understaffing after announcing that a number of their employees have contracted COVID-19. Here's a look at that report.
TCI Hospital, specifically Cheshire Hall Medical Center, is experiencing some staffing woes, said to be impacting some of their services. To this effect, the facility's public relations department has informed of contingency staffing plans, which will be supported by the Cuban Brigade of Health Professionals.
The Cuban Brigade has been with the Turks and Caicos government for some time now, particularly to give assistance with any surges with COVID-19, as well as to cover the hospital with any deficiencies that might have from staff and availability, so we can ensure that our healthcare services, particularly at the secondary healthcare level, continues to function no matter what. So the Cuban government in this instance definitely has been very helpful for allowing their medical professionals to give assistance to the Turks and Caicos Islands, for which we are very grateful.
Officials shared that an increased number of persons have presented with viral-type symptoms suggestive of possible COVID-19 infection through the emergency department. The majority of persons presenting are being seen through this department and being cautiously discharged in order to undergo isolation at home with follow-ups by the public health team. Persons experiencing symptoms are advised to stay at home and contact the Ministry of Health's COVID hotlines on 232-9444. However, if symptoms are severe, call 911 immediately.
The Director of Public Prosecution has confirmed that Cortez Simmons will stand trial again for the 2013 murder of Keziah Burke, and very soon. Details in this report.
Curtis Simmons will return to court on Monday, January 10th, for a judge-alone trial for the 2013 murder of Keziah Burke. Director of Public Prosecutions, Queen's Counsel Eugene Otonyi, confirmed the news today, Thursday, January 6th. Otonyi says that Trinidadian jurist Evans Welch, the prosecutor in the first trial held in 2015, will be returning as special prosecutor in the retrial. Additionally, Justice Tanya Loban Jackson will be hearing the case without a jury. Simmons remains on $500,000 bail, which was granted in 2018, 1 year after he won his appeal against a conviction and life sentence for the murder. He is slated to appear at trial with his attorney, Lara Maroof-Mizik. Simmons won his appeal on what the court termed a technicality. In their judgment, the appellate judges said that they found deficiencies in the trial judge's summation of the case to the jury. That trial judge was former Chief Justice Margaret Ramsey Hale. They stated that an accused person should not escape justice merely because of some technical blunder by the judge in the conduct of the trial, or his or her summing up of the evidence in the case. In short, the judge failed to put the case fairly and adequately for the jury's consideration. The appellate court says it is of the view that the issues involved in this case should be placed before a jury properly directed for its decision. The court says that a critical issue in this case is the evidence, which purports to connect the gun seen on CCTV cameras and which is identified by the forensic evidence as the same gun used in Burke's murder, and which the prosecution seeks to connect Simmons by way of evidence from Booker Odema, a witness in the first trial. Booker's evidence was strongly criticized by the appellate judges, as the witness had changed his story as it relates to who had possession of the alleged murder weapon at the time of Burke's murder. The Court of Appeal determined that if Simmons was to have received a fair trial the first time, the jury ought to have been told that they should be cautious before they accepted the evidence of edema in view of the possibility that it was tainted. The appellate court states that it is unlikely that additional evidence may form part of the prosecution's case in a new trial. Newswatch will bring you updates from inside the court as the new trial unfolds. For PTV Newswatch, I'm Delana Isles.
It's time for a quick break. When we return, more Newswatch.
This is a reminder that all PTV service accounts are due on the first day of each month. Accounts should be brought up to date by the 28th of the month to avoid disruption in service. Payments may be made on our office at Stubbs Diamond Plaza, Providenciales, Mides Plaza, North Caicos, and Airport Road in South Caicos. Payments may also be made online using Scotiabank, CIBC First Caribbean Bank, and Royal Bank of Canada. Please allow 3 business days for online payments to be processed. We thank you for your cooperation.
Welcome back to Newswatch. The People's Democratic Movement share their concern for where the Turks and Caicos Islands is going with the rapid increase of COVID cases and how the current government is handling it in an interview held yesterday, January 5th, 2022. In an interview with Honorable Edwin Astwood, leader of the opposition and People's Democratic Movement, and Honorable Robert Bean Jr., deputy leader of the opposition, they expressed their woes with the recent spike in COVID-19 cases being as though they administered the first and second phases of the ongoing pandemic.
Now we're in the third spike, and you would think now that we're being through the trial and error phase that you will know right away, this works, this doesn't work, this is what we have to do. If we see cases reach this level, these are the precautions that we need to put in place. These are the measures we have to take. If it reaches at this level, if we're seeing it in this group, if we're seeing it at the schools, this is what we have to do. If we're seeing more officers, this is what we have to do. So persons coming in from outside, this is what we have to do. So the playbook has been written. And you would think that it would be a quicker and better response the third time around, because all the growing pains we have been going through as a country.
Astwood expressed his concerns for the way the current administrative government we're under is handling certain decisions they've made, which they believe will affect TCI nationally, to which Bean followed up on sharing his thoughts on the lack of preparedness of the government.
We should have been 10 steps ahead. This is not the first time that we would have seen a spike in numbers after a Christmas holiday. We've seen it last Christmas back in when we got into 2020. So our government should have been more vigilant, more prepared with the increasing numbers. So what you would have seen over this holiday, you would have seen that the country was open wide as of December 1st, if I'm correct. And you would have seen a number of events, number of permits being issued. In fact, not to mention any name, but you would have seen even government officials having private events in the different islands. These things is what would have increased to the numbers, and now we're at a position which is now of public concern, a public outcry with the increasing numbers, shortage of hospital beds, and thankfully that we aren't having numbers, record numbers of people being reported into our hospitals, but these are numbers that could have been avoided.
Being elucidated on the number of events held by, quote, government officials during the holidays, which he believes likely contributed to the spike in COVID-19 cases, also making mention to the event permits that were granted for large-scale events and concerts. Bean also spoke about the last-minute extension of schools reopening, making it difficult for parents to readjust their children to being home once again.
Which I truly believe that the government were aware of these numbers, but probably just didn't know how to present it to the public. The government has failed the public when it came to managing this pandemic, the health, and what we are doing as your opposition. We are going to hold this government's feet to the fire, and we're going to hold them accountable. They have failed and they have dropped the ball. Now, it leaves me to certain questions, which is probably a bit early in this interview, but I did mention it in our press conference. Is this government gonna come up and show up with a countrywide lockdown, trying to assist with the reducing number, and not trying to put fear in people, but these are questions we need to know. You had parents that, again, last minute, they just had to go and find babysitters. They might have been the main person on the job that needed to show up to open those doors. You can't just put stuff on people last minute and then expect them to be okay with it. The finances has to be in place. Arranging food at home for kids. You're not sure if they're dealing with toddlers, teenagers, it's the different age groups of kids. The government should have took a more proactive approach.
Robert believes that some of the PDM's last administration protocols should be implemented in today's COVID-19 regulations, as they were effective then and would hence be effective now.
We got to enjoy, like I said yesterday, we got to enjoy life day and night without worrying about our numbers increasing to a rapid high as we see it as today. And I'm appealing to the government, because the numbers on the dashboard, it's not accurate numbers. When we have 10 plus facilities taking tests per day, with probably doing 50 to 100 persons per day, we do know those numbers are not accurate. And we are appealing to the government, bring out the accurate numbers so the citizens of Turks and Caicos can see exactly how many persons are infected with the coronavirus and how we can best assist in getting these numbers down.
Bean expressed that what he believes resulted in the spike of COVID-19 cases is the fact that we are no longer on a curfew throughout the TCI, which would then give persons the freedom of less social distancing and more interaction.
The events led to such spike in numbers of the virus that we've seen happening. Of course, it's due to a lot of the family gatherings and all of that, but this government played a major role in assisting with those spikes. Again, permits should have not been granted to international artists that would have drawn large crowds. So with the country being open 24/7, people are now able to be on the road all night long and basically, socializing. So these were some of the things that would have contributed to in the spike in numbers. And of course, tourist arrivals would have increased at the same time. So we'd have more people on island, which would have resulted in such a big spike. And back to what myself and the honorable leader said, we have residents that travel over this past Christmas holiday that return without being tested. So they too could have brought back that virus back home.
Bean told Newswatch some suggestions he feels may yield positive results against the spike in cases and what he would have done differently.
First off, I would have never opened the country, most especially during a Christmas season, Christmas holiday. I would have never done that. I would advise this government to bring back curfew. As I said earlier, have locals that are vaccinated, tested on returning. If we have to, for those overcrowded schools, if we have to go back to the hybrid learning system for some of those kids, but ensure that all kids are able to access that for sure. And of course, back to ensuring that everybody is back to wearing its face mask. That mandate has not dropped from Turks and Caicos, but as we can see anywhere we go, a lot of people are not wearing masks anymore, so we need to go back to enforcing that. And also we need to start policing those that are on quarantine. We need more manpower in that area because a number of persons are on quarantine currently, and you would see them out at the grocery store, you might see them out at a bar, you might see them at church, wherever you may see them at an event, a wedding, and the list goes on. But we have to really take this virus serious. Our country is a small country, a small nation built up with small numbers of us. And we have to do what we have to do in the best interest of Turks and Caicos and the citizens that live here to protect us. Our health is everything. So as a government, as an opposition, we are responsible to the people who have voted this government and who has also given us the opportunity to get a vote to ensure that their interest is best protected. So there are a number of basic things that this government can go back to. And I would start by recommending go back to some of the previous protocols that were working.
Finally, Bean shared his feelings surrounding how the government is handling the pandemic and what he believes should change for the betterment of the country and its people.
The last thing we want is a countrywide shutdown.
Yeah.
So it's a situation that this government needs to make a decision as soon as possible rather than later on either pulling back on the curfew or they're going to put us in a position where we were in with a countrywide where it created a number of financial pressure on majority of the local population and citizens of Turks and Caicos. So I believe the government should have already actually come to the public to have that conversation. What is the next step now? Because we do know there were a number of, there was a testing site that I know of yesterday that held by our national stadium. So we do know that today's chart is going to be a definitely spike. If you had went to some of the medical private facilities between yesterday and today, they were crowded with a number of people getting tested. So we do know that by this Friday, there's going to be increasing numbers. We know that factually. So it's no reason to delay pulling back the curfew or trying to get things in order so we can ensure that situations are in the best interest of our people. I personally don't believe we can actually handle and afford a lockdown for our people of Turks and Caicos at this present time. So as a government, as the elected government of the day, which is the PNP, you're obligated to protect our interests. And we are hoping that you do. We are not sitting here to play party politics. Election is in no time soon. We are here because we are obligated as well to the people of Turks and Caicos. And we want the people of Turks and Caicos to know that, hey, certain measures need to be put in place by this government, because if it don't, the innocent definitely will suffer for the guilty. And that includes all of us. This is our home, this is our land. We're not going anywhere. And we just want the government to be more outspoken. This is a time to probably have press conferences maybe once a week on this matter. This is a major matter. This is not for political mileage.
Yes.
You have a job to do.
Stay tuned to hear more about the People's Democratic Movement's views on the current state of the TCI. Coming next, they share their views on the increase in crime. We'll be right back when we return your weather forecast. Sister Craft Market Souvenir Shop. Come and visit us for your travel keepsakes, keychains, artwork, t-shirts, clothing, jewelry, and many more. We're located at the Lower Bight gas station in Providenciales, and you can contact us at 649-341-3070. That's 649-341-3070. Sister Craft Market and Souvenir Shop.
This is a reminder that all PTV service accounts are due on the first day of each month. Accounts should be brought up to date by the 28th of the month to avoid disruption in service. Payments may be made on our office at Stubbs Diamond Plaza, Providenciales, Mides Plaza, North Caicos, and Airport Road in South Caicos. Payments may also be made online using Scotiabank, CIBC First Caribbean Bank, and Royal Bank of Canada. Please allow 3 business days for online payments to be processed. We thank you for your cooperation.
Welcome back to Newswatch. Here's the latest in your weather forecast. Here's your weather forecast for January 7th, 2022. For the nation's capital, Grand Turk, on Friday, mostly sunny skies, high 81, low 74, winds east-southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. For South Caicos on Friday, mostly sunny skies, high 80, low 74, winds east-southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. For North and Middle Caicos on Friday, mostly sunny skies, high 81, low 74, winds east-southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. For Parrot and Pine Key on Friday, mostly sunny skies, high 81, low 74, winds east-southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. And on Providenciales on Friday, mostly sunny skies, high 81, low 74, winds east-southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Now for your sunrise and sunset. sunrise 6:30 a.m., sunset 5:22 p.m. And for your high tides and low tides, high tides 11:13 a.m., 11:48 p.m., and low tides 5 a.m. and 5:32 p.m. And that's it for your weather forecast. We'll be right back with more News Watch.
Here at People's Television, we're more than just your leading news and entertainment services. We are
spreading the gospel.
We are breaking barriers.
We are preserving the culture. Each one, teach one.
We are committed to excellence.
We're creating change.
We are creating memories.
We are the future.
I am PTV.
I am PTV. I am PTV.
I am PTV.
We are PTV.
We are continuing the legacy. We are PTV.
Welcome back to News Watch. Honorable Otis Morris, commenting on the murder of a 60-year-old woman in the nation's capital earlier this week, is calling for all to take a stand in the fight against crime. News Watch has more.
Grand Turk resident and Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Otis Morris, has commented on the heinous murder of a longtime Grand Turk resident after an intruder entered her home on the Ridge early Monday morning. The victim is identified as 60-year-old Denise Buck, who managed a number of companies during her time on the island. Honorable Morris posted to Facebook a day later stating, quote, "Today is such a hard day once again in our nation's capital to have awakened to such terrible news of the loss of life of a resident and a person of whom she was, and ask what reason was there to have killed someone. This is not the way for us in this community to have started the year off after last week," end quote. Speaking on COVID, he continued, "We have seen such a rise in COVID cases in our nation, having to now institute some measures to curb the continued spread, and now to have to deal with this, another senseless murder, not just because it is in the capital, but having to be in this, our beautiful by nature TCI," end quote. The minister called on residents and the powers that be to do everything possible to bring an end to crime, seeking out prayer as a means. He extended condolences to the victim's family. 60-year-old Denise Buck was murdered in her home on the Ridge in Grand Turk around 1 a.m. on Monday morning.
Booster or third doses are now available for all adults 18 years and older, and persons considered high-risk age 16 years and older who completed their primary course of COVID-19 vaccination no less than 3 months prior. This update is based on the recent emergence of the Omicron variant and imminent threat of another COVID-19 surge. Reducing the interval of the booster or third dose provides persons with a higher and sustained level of immunity. Eligible persons should reach out to their health and care providers to schedule their booster dose. The vaccine is critical to the ongoing national response to the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 vaccines are safe and can prevent severe illness, hospitalization, and death. All eligible persons who are unvaccinated are encouraged to take the vaccine, and those who are eligible to take the booster shot. That brings us to the end of this edition of The Real News. I hate to leave you so soon, but of course, you can join us right back here every weekday at 6:30 p.m. and tap into our social media platforms at www.ptv8tci.com. I'm Erica Pinales, wishing you a happy new year, keeping you informed, updated, and affiliated until next time.